To another episode of the Fanzone podcast, your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another episode of the Fanzone podcast. We are back with you once again with our final podcast of the official league, the League One campaign. What a journey it's been, but we are back with you once again. Episode 89. And of course, yesterday sealed the fate for Wanderers, and we will face a trip to the playoffs after a 3-3 draw at the Western Home Stadium again. I think the automatics were somewhat of a pipe dream for most of us, but yesterday confirmed that Wanderers will face Barnsley again in the playoffs, and hopefully we will see a different turn of fate this time round. But a very warm welcome to you all this evening. It is a pleasure to have you all with us. And without further ado, we will get stuck into this evening's episode. So, as always, for those of you watching at home, get your comments in the live chats. Of course, joined this evening by myself, Chris, Ange, and a very warm welcome and return to the podcast for your favourite host, co-host, Colin.
Hello, everybody.
Doing,
hello.
He's alive.
I'm alive. I'm back. I'm back, baby. No, I just want to say a massive thank you, of course, to the wonderful NHS, the National Health Service that we have. They were amazing over at Aintree. So thank you very much for your hospitality for the best part of a week. But yeah, I'm fighting fit now. Looking forward to the playoffs, and yeah, let's do it. Yeah?
Absolutely. Warm welcome to you all, apart from you, Miles, who says hi all from the Championship.
What's it like up there?
Fair play to you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, congratulations. I mean, it was a long old season, and I think Kyle's Dempsey's interview yesterday summed it up absolutely perfectly. As a collective, we just were not good enough over the 46-game season.
I can't believe, right? We've all been watching football for different periods and lengths of time. That has kind of not been like patently obvious. That ifs, buts, and maybes and all that, it's like whatever. Everything levels out over the course of 46 games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
Got to give huge kudos to Portsmouth and Derby, ain't you, really?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like we've not analysed, like, apart from 2 games, we've not analysed the other 44 games that Portsmouth and Derby have played this season. And I'm sure that they've had equally some, blips and, obviously Portsmouth's injury is well publicised. But it's like,
well, I think we've picked up 4 points against 2 of them all season, haven't we? And that's effectively why we've ended up where we've ended up.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's the way it
is. Indeed. So all of that leads to another trip to Barnsley as Wanderers host the playoffs.
Bloody red all over again, eh? Red all over again.
God, so be tight.
I mean, hopefully at least one of us goes up, so we might have to do a preview show with him again. But yeah, what a ride it's been, and I don't really want to dwell on the match too much. It feels like the season's just over, and I just want to get into the playoffs now. How are you all feeling after the game
of the season? Typical last game of the season match. When you know what I mean? Obviously, when things became obvious in terms of what was going to happen, i.e., Derby were beating Carlisle, and that was it. That it just descended into a nonsense.
Yeah, well, you could tell from the first 10 minutes how much we wanted it, and we were ready to go. I mean, we were firing, and we were aggressive, and we were really fired up. It felt like, and then the lads going at half time, they see that Derby are winning. It's like, it's inevitable that slowdown of pace and that perhaps drop off was going to happen. But heading into the playoffs with that game behind us, and do you feel confident? I mean, it was a good performance, all things considered. It wasn't great. It was disappointing to have let the game sort of fizzle out in that fashion, but it wasn't a loss. And how are you feeling heading into the playoffs with our form?
Oh,
Yeah.
Says it all,
You know what I'm like. I'm never
I know.
super confident about any game. I'm kind of actually, even though we've been about 1,000 times in the past 3 seasons, glad we've got Barnsley, because I think our form's better than theirs, and I fancy.
Well, we've not lost since we played Derby. We've not lost since we played Derby, and if you look at Barnsley's recent form, it's quite the opposite. So, Cole, what sort of notion does that give you? I mean, would Barnsley have been your preferred opposition heading into the playoffs? Obviously, their form really is quite poor. We've not lost since we played Derby.
I'm not sure. Sorry,
Right.
Ben. I'm not so sure form really matters, to be honest.
Nah, out the window when it comes down to this.
Completely out the window. It's three. Obviously, people keep saying it, but it's 3 cup finals, isn't it? So I'm not really too focused on form. What I would say is I think Barnsley are weaker than they were last season, and I think we're stronger. So obviously that should, in theory, help us. I also think the fact that we're getting players back and they're getting minutes, or they've had minutes, should I say, in the last 4 games. You know, you're talking the likes of Dion, obviously, Dan coming back, Randall Williams coming back as well, playing and playing. Certainly played well in that first half yesterday. I'm limited to what I normally have to say, simply because I watched the 2 recent home games, but I watched them, of course, from my hospital bed. So obviously it was a little bit difficult to gauge exactly the performance of individuals and how they impacted games, and my knowledge isn't quite what it would normally be. But yeah, certainly in terms of minutes for the players that are coming back, that's good. Obviously Vic apparently as well is pretty imminent. He can be a good impact player, I think. So yeah, that's exciting. That's good. And like I said, Barnsley are weaker. They've practically lost the whole kind of a defensive line, really, haven't they? And a goalkeeper from the team that we played last season in the playoffs. So I also think, and it's hugely advantageous to have your home game second. And obviously that's not something that we had last season. We've had it in the past. If I can try and mind back to the early noughts, is when we played West Brom before we got to Cardiff. We had them at home. I think Goodney scored, if I remember rightly. I was quite young.
2 all the way when it the Hawthorns, and then we give them a pasting at home, didn't we?
At home, yeah, and obviously our home form is fantastic in it. So we should be confident. We should be pretty buzzing, really, and we should be all pretty excited for another trip to Wembley. I'd be very surprised if we didn't make it.
Absolutely. As you said, it's great to see players coming back. Obviously, you mentioned Dan and Charles getting minutes in his legs, and Victor not being too far away.
Well, Demps yesterday as well, Ben. Demps yesterday as well. Obviously, you know, Paris missed out due to illness, but getting Kyle having a full 90 minutes yesterday, obviously, is definitely a good thing, because he's such an integral part of the squad, isn't he? And obviously, he's very much a leader, isn't he? So he could possibly have an impact as well. But Paris got a rest yesterday, so yeah, it's pretty good. We're in a strong position. We're certainly in a stronger position than Barnsley when it comes to not only the squad team, but obviously the managerial structure or lack of in their case.
Absolutely. The last thing you want heading into the playoffs is a group of players that are on their last legs, that are teetering on that red zone, and that have played a hell of a lot of minutes and run around a hell of a lot. And speaking of running around, you may well notice that certainly Mr. Dawson is boasting a medal, proudly wearing a medal around his neck.
Rightly so. Rightly so.
Yeah, my feet are sore. I don't know how they do it, these runner people, but I ain't going to be taking up athletics anytime soon. But all for a good cause. And it was a good day. And I just wanted to give a shout out, if I could. I think she's a bit of a friend of the pod, isn't she? With helping us with the tough sleep and bits and bobs, which is Fran from Bolton Wanderers in the community. I can't believe how well they did putting all that together today. It was absolutely unbelievably well done. So big shout out to
Chris, give us a bit of an insight into what that looked like and what happened. Because I'll be honest, I've not really got much of an idea. Where was the start? Where was obviously the finish at the Reebok? I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. So everything started from the ground.
Right.
The starting gun was Super John, basically. So there was. I think I was looking because you on your your number, you've got a chip on the back, and it measures automatically as you cross the line. And I was looking at the machine by the finishing line. And I'm sure it said 4,100 people crossed the line. I guess people might have gone back and forth and it registered them twice, but still, it was massive turnout, huge turnout, and it was all the way down Charlie Old Road, down to the retreat, and then back again. But obviously, roads are closed. It was just the amount of planning that must have gone into it was phenomenal. You had a massage at the end.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
No comments about massages, please, anybody, and the inevitable. And there was drinks laid on, as in applied nutrition, a load of drinks in there and stuff like that for all the people who did it. But no, it was like the sleep out was. It was so really well organised by the guys at Bolton Wanderers in the community. They were unbelievable job and effort. And she's bored. She must go. So are we doing it again next year? And Paul Holiday has put my name down for a marathon, seemingly, but I don't think that's going to happen somehow.
No, well done, Chris.
25
really well
mile
done.
off that. Cheers, thank you. And hopefully we can raise a lot more money for Bolton Wanderers in the community.
Absolutely sterling efforts. And right on cue, we are about to head into Angie's section, which is, of course, the Fanzone Man of the Match. And
she's back now.
Ange has just returned. Right on cue. So,
my internet's been horrible. Sorry, my internet's been horrible.
Right.
Without further ado, we'll hand over to Ange for her Fanzone Man of the Match.
Yeah, sorry. Fingers crossed I can keep a stable enough connection for this section. So everyone knows the drill. If you want to put your contender for man of the match in the chat, if you'd like to elaborate as to why, feel free. And we'll go around the panel, starting with Benjamin.
It's a tough one because it really was a game of two halves. I thought Charles looked good coming back in. I thought Dempsey was okay for the first half, but sort of lost a little bit of efficiency and cutting edge in the second. But one player that I thought stood out for the course of the 90, or at least 80 minutes, was a name that's been flung around in the chat, and that's Randall Williams. I thought he's, in terms of something that's frustrated me a hell of a lot this season, is final ball delivery and the delivery of balls into the box from the final third, usually from the flanks. It's been relatively disappointing. And bar, I think, Aaron Collins in the last couple of weeks, I think we've really struggled. And I think our wing backs specifically have struggled with pinpoint delivery. And yesterday I thought Randall's delivery into the box and his creation of chances, obviously he got the assist for Dempsey's goal. I thought he was excellent, really, really good. And for me, it's been good to have him back in the side. And I think for me, he's done well to come back into the side and put on a performance like that. So for me, Randall Williams takes my man of the match spot.
Super. Who are you having, Chris?
Bobby Magley, because that referee in second half was a shadow of the referee in the first half. It was night and day. Gee, I think if anything summed up League One this season, it was that how you can have those polar opposites of referees, and obviously Bobby Magley has officiated at a higher level. God, that guy in the second half, whatever his next name was, Tallis or something, I think, was dreadful in comparison. As for players, I can't disagree with Randall Williams, but he's not my man of the match. My man of the match is Ricardo Santos. I thought he was excellent yesterday. And just at the right time, because if we need an informed Rico, it's right now. So my man of the match, Rico.
Just on that, I couldn't agree more. I thought he was my second choice. I thought I don't want to say timing of the fouls, but the timing of him using his body very well was perfect yesterday. There's been times where he's been caught out and he's got it wrong a couple of times, but yesterday, the way he put himself about and the way he just manhandles people, and he does it so cleverly. And yesterday he was immense, wasn't he?
Bang on.
Okay, Colin, who's your man of the match?
There's not many standouts to be honest. I think it was your typical final game of the season, weren't it? Really, and I don't think we should really spend too much time talking about it. In fairness, I think we just need to draw a line under that part of the season and move and concentrate on the playoffs. Personally, it's difficult to choose a man of the match. I think I'm going to give it to Kyle Dempsey, to be fair. I thought he took his goal well. He was quite industrious in midfield and somewhat stepped up into big shoes when it comes to Paris Magoma. And I really like Kyle Dempsey, and I like his overall game, and I like how he can impact games for us in certain situations. Wasn't his best game, but it wasn't any of them's best game. I would have looked to choose Randall Williams, but he really irritated me in the second half by being a little bit of, I don't even know what you can say anymore that's even allowed to be said.
Half-hearted.
Yes, he was half-hearted, shall we say?
He was weak in the tackle, wasn't he?
In his challenge, that cost George Thomason to get booked yet again, because he had to then bring down the man because he was, half-hearted in his challenge, and that really irritated me. So that's the only thing with Randall. I think he's a great footballer. He's got so many assets. I think you're right, Ben. His delivery is fantastic. He can go past the man. He can go left. He can go right. But he's very marred.
No, that's good word. Good word to describe that. I think.
It winds me up. He pulls out of challenges like Radek Lektar's put an awful lot. But I'll give it Kyle Dempsey because he took his goal well, and big shoes to fill, and I think he played pretty well considering.
Fair dues. So in the chat, we've kind of lent towards Randall Williams. There is a shout in there for Rico. I think that's it. I don't think there's any. I'm not sure who's Pablo. Lou's put Pablo. Who's Pablo?
Maybe it's Rico auto-corrected.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. It was that Rico that's also corrected, Lou. So because of that, I was swaying between Randall and Rico. So I'm going to go with the chat, and we'll give it to Randall Williams.
Well done, Randy. Mr. Riz.
Yeah, on Randell, interesting to get people's opinions in the chat, actually, because obviously we've got Nathaniel Ogbeta as well as Randall Williams to choose from at left back now going into the playoffs. Who is everyone's preference?
Ogbeta.
But I was just going to say, but bear in mind, before Randell got injured the first time, he was probably our most consistent player.
I think the dynamic has changed since Paris has found his feet. I think Ogbeta and Magoma complement each other very, very well.
Link up really well, don't they?
Really, really do. And I think thinking about where we're at now, and you're mentioning obviously the 3 cup finals, we need our strongest team in all 3 games and our most effective team. And for me, that would be Ogbeta with Magoma in midfield as well.
I worry about Ogbeta defensively, though. I'll be honest. I think offensively, I think he's great. I just think, although Randell is poor in terms of his commitment defensively, but I think he's better. I think he edges it defensively for me, Randell. So it's a real, and as I expected, it's very, very much split in the chat. And I thought it would be, to be fair.
Don't get me wrong. I've got no issues with Williams at all. And obviously he's got the benefit of his long throw should we need it as well, which is quite a weapon to have, especially in closely contested games.
Very much so.
So yeah, I can understand why there would be a good argument for both.
It is very much split. It is very much split. What do you think, Ange?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with Chris with Ogbeta and Paris playing really well together, kind of reading each other really well. But then I also agree with he probably needs to work on his defensive element a bit. But that's why he's with us, isn't it? So
it's funny, isn't it? Because Zach Ashworth's the best defender out of all 3 of them.
Yeah,
and he doesn't get mentioned, does he?
Go figure. Yeah, you're right. Isn't it Nathaniel Ogbeta's birthday today, or was it?
It is.
Was it yesterday? Yeah.
He's only 23. So
David's put silly to have 2 left backs not used on the bench. We should have Coleman there. I'm inclined to agree with the Coleman comment, but I think when it comes to Ashworth, he's looked at as left-sided centre-half cover as well, I think.
He is.
Because he played there for Burton, didn't he, for last season, all season, I think.
But the Coleman thing, I think yesterday was a bit of a strange one because obviously there were so many permutations and there was so many sort of thought processes that you had to go through depending on how we were doing, how Derby were doing and such like, that you've got to really maximise your bench. And I think one of those, I think the word gung-ho was used, wasn't it, earlier in the week? And gung-ho with a goalkeeper.
Brandon's asked a question. I think it's quite an interesting one. When was the last time our left-hand side was good defensively? I think I have to go back to the previous decade.
It's really important as well, especially against Barnsley. I was looking into their stats before about their offensive sort of build-up. Primarily, they either go through the middle or they go down the right. They're good at counter-attacks and they are pretty decent with wing play. And all of that points towards needing that left-hand side to be pretty strong. I think Ogbeta has a tendency to get caught quite high up the pitch, and the
look at Pompey's goal. Look at Pompey's goal with Ogbeta. Yeah. He was at fault for that.
Yeah,
he gets caught high up quite a lot, and that is a worry. And I think for me, that's why Randall would edge it. But it is as soon as I was looking at their stats, it was a concern for me because it's that left hand side is notoriously a little bit weaker defensively.
But to answer Brandon's question, I'm going to go with Simon Charlton.
That's good. Brilliant. You read my mind. It would either going to be Simon Charlton or Dean Crombie. But that would be
Simon Charlton, 100%. Yeah. Or Vincent Candela, I think, for a little bit.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he played in an era that for us that he probably shouldn't have played in, I don't think. But same with Kevin Poole as well. I think I put him in a similar category.
What a keeper. Andrew asked, it's a good question, actually. Andrew asks, would you not stick Iredale in? I think it's...
where, left wing back or the left side of the 3?
I mean left wing back, I think.
Wing back, yeah.
a mad one, isn't it?
It's too much. I think he's too much of a fullback to play at wing back for me. It's just. I don't.
Yeah.
In terms of although Ogbeta and Williams sometimes let themselves down defensively, I think on the opposite side of the coin, what they offer offensively far outweighs anyone else in that position.
Randell will edge it, I reckon, for this playoff malarkey. Randell's going to edge it, and I think he could very well edge it for the semis, but Ogbeta could play at Wembley, which sounds a bit of a daft thing to say.
No.
But it's a team and it's a squad effort, and it's not about individuals in the team.
Absolutely. Just before we move through to our next segment, we of course will do our routine and very important sponsor shout out. So we would of course like to say a huge thank you to our headline sponsors for the 2023-2024 season, a newly rebranded headline sponsor. You would have thought after saying it so many times I'd be able to just roll that one off, but apparently not. Of course, a huge thank you to Eco One Windows. Fantastic support throughout the year. And what an absolute set of legends. So if you want to find out any more about our sponsors, then you can head over to our website.
We're having a bidding war for the headline sponsor next season, Ben. Is that the plan?
I couldn't possibly think more than I.
Elon Musk.
Yeah. If you want to go and find out any more about any of our sponsors, then if you head over to www.thefanzonepod.co.uk, then you can do exactly that. But we will move through to, I say it every week, but a little bit of a fan favourite segment with our very own resident statman, Get Stats On.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Fanzone podcast and to, of course, my segment, Statman segment, the preview for the Barnsley game. Now, this may be the hardest preview I have ever had to do because they've literally just sacked the manager and they've not appointed anyone officially yet. There's a couple of rumours that they might get the MK Dons manager, Mike Williamson, but I can't exactly go off that, can I? So, yeah, this is quite hard to do. But we move, as they say. First off, congrats to Chris for his run for Bolton Wanderers in the community. Well done. That was not supposed to be patronising, I hope it wasn't. There's a link on his Twitter to donate, and there's also a very nice picture of his medal, so you can go have a look at that. And anyway, let's move on to the actual preview segment. So they've scored 82 goals from 64.3 XG, but again, do stats actually matter when you've literally just sacked your manager? Probably not. So yeah, I mean, the only thing that I had a look at their last game, the highlights, obviously, because I don't pay for Y-Scout. That wasn't at the game. So I've had a look, and from what I've seen, the centre-backs are hesitant, is the best PG word I can say. They do not like to play on a high line, because they're not very fast, and they don't want to engage, which is, I mean, it's fair enough. As a centre-back, you don't really want to have to be pressing yourself, but sometimes that does end up happening. I've got a screenshot of that from the Northampton game. First one there, you can see they're already running back, even though two of them aren't marking anyone. The outside guy, yeah, that's fair enough, because he's literally tracking his man. But yeah, they leave their strikers, their forwards, their attacking midfielders so much time on the ball. And I think, personally, if McGomez is fit, Dempsey, Thomason, any of them, if they're getting that much time, they can pick that pass easily for a Charles or a Collins or whoever's playing up front. And then, yeah, the second screenshot, you can see it's literally so much time. They're not gonna come out. They're gonna keep backing off as long as they physically possibly can. But yeah, that's all I've got, basically. Herbie Kane looks like their best player, and he did actually score in the Northampton game. Very nice goal, I must say. However, here's another graph. Yeah, 3, mental, innit? This is taken from FOTMob, and it's like a little just graph to show the player's attributes. You can see he's not going to defend at all, is he? And that means space in the midfield, because he is a midfielder. So yeah, I mean, that's even more time on the ball for the attacking midfielders, forwards. You get my point. So yeah, basically in between the lines, and their lines are absolutely huge. You can win this game, and the game after that. But yeah, I've done my best. So enjoy the rest of the podcast. Goodbye.
Thank you, as always, to our wonderful stat man. But it's that the points that he made about the space in the midfield. Certainly, you're looking at players like Paris. You're looking at players like Tomo, who can get on the ball and find a pass. Sheehan as well, likely to be a great candidate for a game like that. But also, I think the introduction of
Rico as well. You'll see Rico's distribution come out for this, the diags that he plays, and tries to play pretty regular throughout the game. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's another great point. And we've seen us try to play it and not been. There's games where it's been very effective when we played into the channels really well, and there's games where we just haven't. But I think Collins coming in, I think he can get out wide and bring the ball inside much better than I think any of the other forwards can. And yeah, I'm looking for, in a strange sort of way, I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's a real chance for us to show in a high pressure environment what we're about. Something that I think we've shied away from perhaps a little bit in the past. The only example I can think of where we've really put a team to the sword in quite a high pressure environment is Wembley. But Chris, how are you feeling heading into the playoffs? What are your thoughts? Obviously, it's a bit of a weird one with Barnsley. They could appoint a new manager, and I mean, it would be anyone's guess on how they're going to line up and turn out. But how are you feeling?
Yeah, I saw the link that Callum mentioned with the current MK Dons manager. Now, whether that will be now, but I mean, they're involved in the playoffs themselves. My initial thoughts when it happened were that they'd get Michael Duff back at the helm. But I just find it bizarre. And then you look at so I'd already been mentioned, their form across weeks now, which has been poor. But, you know, it's one of those that they've got in there, and did they seize the opportunity and, you know, play out the skin? It's a real tough one to call. I just think that yesterday there was a small opportunity for us to do it on the day, a very small opportunity given Derby's game against Carlisle. But I think we showed a glimpse of what we will expect in these next 3 games, which is front foot, positive, playing at pace, moving the ball quickly. I think that the last 12 games, losing 1 for us is a massive thing. And I just think that we'll seize the opportunity. I've got absolutely no doubt that we're going up. I've got none. It's simple. And I can't be any more honest than that.
It's funny you mentioned it because I'm in the exact same boat, and I really hope it doesn't come back to bite me in the ass.
You know what? I don't care, and you know, people can clip it and do whatever. I'm not bothered. I'm genuinely not bothered one iota.
The thing is, when you do these kind of things, podcasts or vlogging or whatever, you know what Thogden does on whatever, you put yourself out there, you have your opinion. It is what it is, isn't it? Really, you know.
Well, all you got to do is look at this best team in the league comment.
It's like 3 years ago, that wasn't it?
2.5 years ago. It's taken wildly out of context, but it's still it's still being churned out day in, day out, and you've got to give kudos to Everett for that. You know what I mean? Wouldn't you? Yeah, Colin, you like a bit of attention. Wouldn't you love it, right? You said something, just a sentence, and people were still saying it 2.5 years later.
Yeah, It means you're in the thoughts, doesn't it?
Oh,
You know.
Rent free.
yeah.
Yeah. You can't
Gratis
beat it.
rented. You know what I mean? It's like,
Especially if you're an attention seeker like me.
well, that's what I meant. That's why I picked you out, Cole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't really give a flying one what people think. It doesn't fucking bite me on the bum. I've got absolute, complete and utter faith that we'll do it.
5-0 both games.
See, now every time you do that, it does make us look silly.
That's stupid, Cole.
It makes me look silly. I'm not bothered though. It's just a four game, isn't it? You know. I think, yeah. We're the third best team in the league.
Yeah.
So we should be going up.
Fact.
Yeah, well, that is
Yeah.
statistically a fact. But,
You know, 3 teams below us in the playoffs that are worse than us. So we should go up like Sheffield Wednesday did last season. To be fair though, statistically, when you finish third, statistically speaking, the third team does tend to go up.
yeah. Is it something like 10 out of 18 or something like that?
Yeah, and I can assure you this is a huge wooden dining table, and I am touching that wooden dining table as I said that.
No, it's happening.
I certainly hope so. Ange, how are you feeling heading into the playoffs?
I mean, no one enjoys it, do we? We don't. It's not
it's
something.
horrible.
Yeah, it's not something that we. I mean, I'd rather be in it than not. So I'm not going to say it's not something we wanted because I'd rather be playing in it than be in the mix than not. But I am. I think we get to Wembley, it's ours. It's just making sure that we come out all guns blazing and we take it to them and play like it's 3 cup finals, not like it's over 2 legs. You know what I mean? Like, let's get the job done.
Yeah,
put it to
don't
bed.
try and manage it. Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm also sure we'll go all guns blazing at their place on Friday because it's a 2 leg.
Just 3 cup finals going. You literally said 3 cup finals.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but you got to manage it, haven't you? I'm not so sure whether we'll go. I mean, I'm not saying we're not going to go out and attack them, which I'm sure we will. But all
we went
guns
out and
blazing.
attacked Peterborough. We went out and attacked Peterborough, didn't we?
Yeah,
I
what
think-
happened in that second half.
I think it's a massive. And I'll be careful what I say, but I think it would be a huge detriment to Ian Evatt if he doesn't learn from last season, given we're playing the same team across 2 legs at the same juncture of the season in the playoffs. Because he did try
I mean,
and
it was the 2 most boring matches of the season.
Oh, awful, mate.
Yeah,
That's it.
terrible.
Isn't it? You know what I mean? And he did try and manage those games.
Yeah, true.
And frankly, we got it wrong. We got it wrong, and we didn't play to our potential and what we're capable. We look spent, and I just don't think that's going to happen again.
No,
Yeah.
you certainly hope not.
It's a different
Certainly
dynamic
hope
though
not.
this season, isn't it? With the home leg being second, like I mentioned before.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah,
Massive.
it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I also think as well, from a fan's perspective, now we have a bit of a mixed demographic, I think. But when you look at social media as a yardstick, which you shouldn't really do, I think a lot of people on there are obviously relatively young, and last season was their first experience of a playoff scenario. And of course, now that the younger generation have had that experience, they might be able to deal with the pressures as a fan base better than they would have done last season as well, which I think contributes as well to the whole situation. You know, you've got a fan base, you've got a percentage of the fan base that before last season hadn't experienced, you know, playoffs before, had this, so that could help. But yeah, you can, like you always say, Chris, you can spin things however you wish, can't you?
One request: don't get the big flag out.
What if it's been washed though? Would that not work?
No, don't like it. Don't like it. Don't like big flags like that.
Chris, speaking of big flags, we'll hand over to you for
What?
I don't know.
It's a big
I was-
question.
In my head, I was trying really hard to create a segue into your fan focus, but it just wasn't coming.
No, never mind.
So we'll just roll the.
We know what you mean, though. We'll start with a comment. Brandon, that's my fan focus covered. Yes, it is. I'm just going to put a big fat line through that on my pad. And the segment went a little something like this. Yes. No, actually, there was a bit that you touched on, Brandon, which kind of links into it, which where you mentioned that yesterday summed up our season. Level of inconsistency, soft-centered. It was the last game of the season, and things did go against us. But I think, I think we needed to show a little bit more resilience yesterday.
Sorry, Chris. When we discussed this on the way back yesterday, like there needs to be an element of respect to Peterborough because they're a good side.
Yeah.
They've got some good players. Some very, very tricky players, and one or two that certainly won't be with them next season, regardless of what division Peterborough are playing in. Obviously, one of them have signed for Coventry already. I think it was Poku. I think it didn't play yesterday. I don't think either. So they've got a lot of good young players who are very difficult to manage in games. So when we say like it's typical of our season, we were poor. You got to give credit to the opposition sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. It's true. There is that element, but I still think that given the start that we made and the opportunities we created, not soon after, there was one in particular for Dion that we really did put them to the sword, and we could have been out of sight. And I thought that the way that we played in the second half changed completely prior to the subs. So I can see where you're coming from on that, Brandon. And like you said, thinking about last season, about how we managed it, we've already touched on that. And how do we approach it? Do we go fast and aggressive, or do we keep it tight? Well, obviously, I think we've already touched on that. One other point that was raised was by Donny Amarco, or Mar, as he is known. Getting Barnes, and it's a weird one because it was only on the car park walking out the ground yesterday that we realised that it would be Barnsley and not Oxford after Northampton scored in the 96th minute. So things change really, really quickly. Does it suit them or does it suit us? And he says that from the point of view that obviously they've had a bit of I don't know. They've had that number a few times, and that's where he's coming from. So, from the options that we had, obviously Blackpool were nowhere near in the end. We didn't want them, but the other option would have been Oxford. So, Oxford or Barnsley, Ben, who would you prefer, given the choice? I know it's three finals, but
exactly, and the only thing we have to go off is the games that we've played against them, but also form. They're the only two things that we can really go off. Oxford, we absolutely turned over, but if you look at their form since that, they've been very, very good. Yeah. They didn't lose then for 5 consecutive games. They beat Peterborough 5-0, sorry, and they were exceptional for the following games, and that's what's got them into the playoffs, and they've earned their spot there. It feels very much like Barnsley have only just got into the playoffs by the skin of their teeth. And you look at a team like Lincoln, and you could say that arguably they deserved it more. They didn't end up there, so that's completely up for debate.
I don't know about that, but I'm deserving it more. Barnsley have been in that top 6 for the vast majority of the season. Lincoln haven't. They were mid-table up until recently. So
yeah, well, like I said, that part's up for debate. But you're looking at Barnsley in their last 6 games, picking up 2 points. That's a really poor showing from a team in the top 6. That's really, really poor. And so for me, although it's 3 cup finals, there is an element of the form table that you have to disregard heading into the playoffs, but it's hugely important. No team wants to go into the playoffs after a consecutive run of being absolutely turned over by teams left, right, and centre, because it doesn't fill you with confidence and it doesn't give you that belief that you are good enough to be where you are.
I'm not surprised that he invaded the pitch yesterday. People berating him for that. I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. Like you say, given that form, and then
I'd be majorly embarrassed if that was us. If we'd scraped a draw against Northampton that secured us 6th spot in the league after being in the top 6 for a bit after it being in our hands for so long, I'd be majorly embarrassed. So for me,
I'm with
Barnsley would have been my choice. So, but no, anything can happen. Let's just take each game as it comes. Let's just turn them over. Let's beat them and do what we can do and head into the final.
Ange, what do you reckon? Who would you have preferred, or who do you?
I said Oxford last pod,
right?
And I think that's mostly because of the whole. I mean, they're not a bogey team, are they? But I just think in the past, and probably looking at last season, we just struggled against them. It was that they knew how to play us. And for me, I you can't help but look back and think, oh, I can't be asked for that again, which is why I wanted someone different, maybe. But I'm not asked, to be honest. It is what it is, and we've just got to do what we've got to do, and we have to go up.
Yeah. It's quite simple, isn't it?
With what you were saying then, Ben, you could flip that on its head a little bit with the whole, they've limped into the playoff, but actually, does that give them a little bit, the underdog, aren't they? Does it give them that spirit, the fans pitch invaded for a 6th spot, like you've just said? Does that give them a little bit of an extra something?
I know, I noticed that. Whoever's just put that up. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Best of luck next season, getting back into League One as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would. You know what? I was keeping an eye on their score, and I felt so bad for them because I thought they'd done an okay job in the second half of the season, and for the circumstances that they were given, Peterborough dishing out a really poor team and essentially giving Burton 3 points has sort of put the nail in the coffin for them. But I'm sure that they'll come back again and they'll be in League One next year, hopefully.
Burton Albion, Jesus. Colin, who would you be preferred, if any?
Yeah, we should be beating them all, so I weren't really bothered, to be honest, who we were playing. What I would say to your comment earlier, Chris, when you said that they've had our number, we've lost 4 times since 1997 against them.
We've drawn a load, haven't we? I noticed that.
We've drawn a fair few, but we've won the majority. We've won quite a few of them as well, to be fair. We've actually only lost in FA Cup games and playoff games since 1997. I mean, bear in mind, we were in the Premier League for 12 years of them years, but we weren't playing them very often. But they haven't really got our number. I think it's a bit of a misconception, that, to be honest. So
where does that come from? That whole sense of head-to-heads with teams of because I never thought that Barnsley had done us over that many times.
It's recency bias, isn't it? People think about most recent thing, isn't it? That's all it is. And we played them in the FA Cup and they beat us, didn't they, at our place as well? That would be fresh in the mind and stuff. Yeah, so it's all recency bias. You look at the bigger picture, they certainly haven't got the number on us at all over the course of the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
Although that's a big gap. That's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a myth, that. So yeah, rambling. But Barnsley, I think they've no manager. To be honest, you're going into a playoff battle with no leader, and you need a manager. And whether they get a manager tomorrow or Wednesday, to put your stamp on your team, unless it's the fella that they had last season, which would be a bit of a nightmare for us. But I think when you look at because he knows them, doesn't he? That's why I'm saying that.
Of course he does. Yeah.
When you look at it all, I think Barnsley fans would probably say that even if they went up, it'd be too soon for them and stuff. So they're not ready. They're not ready for it. You can't be ready when you've not got a gaffer in charge. It's a ludicrous thing to do to set your manager. In my opinion, I just don't see the logic behind it. And even that
Without
new
replacement.
yeah, exactly. That new manager bounce thing that people say, that's a bit of bull as well. That's not even a thing really. When you look at it, it doesn't happen very often. That managers go on mad runs when they've took over, because they're trying to find the feet, aren't they, and understand the players and the tactics and everything that goes with it. So
Nathan Jones.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah. Well, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, but you're saying that, but he's lost games, hasn't he, as well? You know, and he's drawn an awful lot of games, hasn't he? He's probably drawn games. He's drawn games that he probably should have won if he'd have had a team that he was more familiar with, and team that is actually his team as well, and his signings and stuff. So yeah, we should beat them over 2 legs. I'm sorry, get red all over, guys. If you're watching and listening to this,
we're not, lads. We're not. No, we're not.
This is going to come back and bite us in the arse, isn't it?
Yeah.
This confidence.
Right.
Poor Thogden. Christ, he's just having his opinion saying, see you in the final. I mean, and gets ridiculed for it. It's just his opinion. It blows my
Red
mind.
All Over will have a highlights reel posted after the second leg of just us saying that we're gonna do them over.
Well, they'd be entitled to do it. It's when it's people from clubs who aren't involved. That's when it's a bit
weird.
A bit weird. Yeah.
Weird.
Go
and enjoy well with
finally, we'll keep this one short and sweet, and we'll rattle through it. But it follows on nicely from the loan play discussion we had last week or on the last pod. And this is from Leslie. How many, if we do go up, how many players in the current crop are good enough or will be good enough and will cut it in the Championship?
I think on this we should perhaps when the season ends, we should, if we go up, we should make a video on this, and we'll do a proper sit down, because we could sit and talk about this for half an hour, couldn't we?
Yeah.
We've done that at previous end of season pods, haven't we? Where we've done a keep, sell, jobbing.
Yeah.
And we should invite some fans on as well to join us.
Yeah. So I think you might
could do
worms here, Leslie. Or you may
let us know in the chat. We could do an end of. I mean, we usually do an end of season pod anyway, but we could do an end of season roundup where we react to our table predictions that we all gave at the start of the season. I'm sure there's some interesting ones in there. If I remember correctly, I'm sure Colin put Oxford somewhere towards the lower end of the table and said that they're absolutely rubbish and won't be anywhere near the top.
But in fairness, they finished like 4th, 5th bottom last season, so that's the logic behind that. And I also said that that fella that they signed from non-league would be a load of crap as well. He started off all right, but then you don't even heard from him ever since. So I caught that one. You were waxing lyrical over him, Ben, weren't you? So I remember that one quite vividly. Can't remember his name now. I
don't think anyone would have put Stevenage where they ended up. I'm sure we all had them near the bottom as well. So there might be some interesting ones in there.
I'll tell you what, nobody will want to play them in the playoffs. That aged well. Oh, Steve Evans, you tinker.
Hopefully won't see him next season.
Oh, God, no. No. So that was 3 points. One that we've already covered, one that we're going to do an episode on, and one that we did cover. So 1 out of 3 ain't bad. So a bit of an easy shift for me tonight, that. So thanks, guys.
Under an hour as well, Ben.
Under an hour. You know how happy that makes me. Thank you all very, very much for joining. Do
we have an
season has been.
Sorry, Ben. Do we have an update on Red All Over in terms of what we're doing with them this week for everybody who's listening?
Yes, we are planning on bringing you some preview shows, joined by the wonderful folks over at Red All Over, who, of course, you'll have seen on the channel before. Yes, so I'm waiting, I think, on specific confirmation of dates. But we will have you 2 preview shows, one for the home leg, one for the away leg, and we'll post that information on our socials in due course. So at the bottom of the screen there, you can see our handles. Follow us on Twitter, and you'll get all of the latest updates. But you will have 2 preview shows.
We'll be on their channel as well, though, won't we? Won't we? A couple of times.
We will. The away end, their show. So if you fancy,
Yeah.
you all right?
Sorry. Leslie's saving us here. I tell you.
Oh, indeed.
Oh,
How
yeah.
could we forget?
Wow. So yeah, Leslie Davis, her comment says, "Don't forget, congratulations to Alex." So friend of the show, Mr. Alex Murphy, as we announced, was fighting last night. So he missed the Peterborough game, bless him. But in better news, he went 11-0. So he won his fight last night. So he remains undefeated, which is phenomenal. Big shout out. There was a significant contingent from Crazy Corner and the East Lower. They're shouting him on yesterday. And yeah, fair play. Well done, mate. Onwards and upwards. 12-0, mate, next. So well done to Alex Murphy for his win last night.
Well done, Al.
Indeed. Huge congratulations. But yes, we will see you in the next episode, which will be your Barnsley preview. And we're all looking forward to it. So yeah, we'll be joined by Red All Over, and you can catch the away end over on their channel as well. But until then, take care, and we will see you with the playoff podcast.
Oh, the playoffs.
Yay!